A lot of our founders, they are going through very, very difficult chapters. I give you an example of one of our most mature companies. They are confounded right now whether they should exit now or tell their investors to hold it for another 5-10 years. So that is a very significant stewardship issue.
For example, in one of our portfolio companies, they were struggling a little bit, and we spoke to the CEO, and we are looking at their revenue. They are close to $10 million revenue. Maybe he needs to talk to somebody to kind of tell him that it's okay to cut your cost and you still be fine. So just simple discussions like that, sitting down with the CEOs and kind of navigating through some of the challenges which they are having, advising them on that. That is the driver for us to get engaged with them whenever they need it and advise them, sympathize with them, empathize with them. That's a part of the culture.
So today we are with the Quartus Capital team, Rizwan and Barry. We want to discuss stewardship versus performance, the long-term judgment in AI growth investing, and the more deep dive as to what it is, the term stewardship, how do you define it, and how's that key and core to Quartus Capital processes.
So stewardship is relatively newer term in the context of venture capital, as far as I know. And value add has been used much more frequently over a longer period of time. So you say, what is your value add? And people say, we do these things to help our portfolio companies do better. And so that's more focused on what some people may say short term. I don't think it's short term, it's more operational improvements, connecting them to new investors, connecting them to new markets. All these are important factors. Mm-hmm. Stewardship added, at least the way we understand, is a deeper kind of longer term context around it. Are they doing the right thing? Are they doing things the right way? Are they going to exist or sustain over a long period of time or not? Mm-hmm. So that's where stewardship concept comes in. So it basically takes the value add from a kind of a narrower focus to a broader focus, a broad and longer term focus. That's how we understand stewardship.
Okay, and why is it critical?
I think some investors are beginning to focus on this because everybody and their brother and sister were saying in venture space, they do a lot of value add activities. And those value add activities begin to look very similar, right? So this is a form of differentiation as well. One is to have a different mindset, not just focus on those operational or strategic value add, to, as I said, thinking about longer term, deeper meaning in their business, the sustainability of their business, and so forth. So it's adding a perhaps expanded, deeper definition around the value add. Why investors care? They want to differentiate one firm from the other.
Right.
So they may not even ask you this question, but they are judging you based on this. They say, what do you do for these companies? Why are you different from that company or this company? A firm, I should say. Mm-hmm. So it's twofold. One is it's important to us that we have been thinking about these things. We're not doing these things just to appease to investors. Right. We are doing these things because this is what we believe in. So it's a value-based, right? Mm-hmm. But if we have this value-based approach, but we are not communicating to investors don't know. So that's the second part. One is to do it for the right reason, and then we communicate to investors and prospective investors in an effective manner.
Yeah, we usually use the phrase, what's not communicated, it's not known. So that was the idea behind it. But give me an example. Maybe Al, Rizwan, or Barry can chip in. examples of where this stewardship that you're mentioning as a broader term, as a deeper term, and in a way, has been significant value for one of the companies that you have in your portfolio, or one of the, on the other side, one of the investors that are part of your investment.
Yeah, it's a very hard to contextualize in a simple example, but I can give you examples of the things that we are doing or beginning to do or we have done with regard to what we call, sustainable long-term kind of value add to companies. It's basically helping them think about their leadership.
Okay.
Help them think about their horizontal and vertical value chains, right? Help them think through how to grow in a very competitive environment, right? Not day to day, but in a longer term, right, Rizwan?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's, just to kind of take a step back, that stewardship concept was the most exciting thing for me when I joined Quartus.
Okay.
Because what I was doing at Hitachi was very, very similar towards the end, which was essentially establishing a product management team, which is working with those people, those products or projects which we wanted to bring to the market. So that aspect that we are actually going to be investing in the growth stage companies, hence a stewardship would be absolutely necessary and needed, was very exciting for me, right? Like Al was saying, the continuing to establish a very close communication with them, with the management team, and helping them navigate through the complex world of AI, which is evolving. So that definitely, we do all the time.
So it's a human factor, which is significant. So a lot of our founders or portfolio companies founders, they are going through very, very difficult chapters of
Well, they're in
company.
growth stage.
Yeah.
So that what's happening in their mind, or typically what's happening in that phase?
So growth has very different pain points than early stage companies. So as I say, it's a growing pains.
Right.
So they have growing pains, and the growing pains can be very, very complex, and that's when things pop up about long-term sustainability, long-term paths to continue to grow the company, right? Extending the life of the company, extending the life of capital. Those other bigger issues pop up that earlier stage companies, don't have. I give you an example of one of our most mature companies, right? They are confounded right now whether they should exit now or tell their investors to hold it for another 5-10 years, right? So that is a very significant stewardship issue, right?
Right.
So there will be different types of investors. Some investors would say, my fund term is 8 years. I need to cash out. I need to pay my investors. Other investors would say, no, we are invested in you for the long haul, not tied to the fund term. So they will think of strategies while they're satisfying, and they still have to satisfy the fund requirements, but they also have a longer term, orientation toward this company, saying, how can I help you, support you to go to your next chapter in a creative way? So that mindset, in my view, is where stewardship comes a very important concept.
I can't help thinking about like mental health and the extreme, saying things that are happening in terms of these leaders that have these struggles. And is it that space of a conversation within your
Not in the context of us and our portfolio company, no.
Okay.
But the CEOs of portfolio companies,
Okay.
Founders of all types, including people like you and I, Rizwan, right? We have a lot of pressure from business, from life, and vice versa. But that's not part of this stewardship conversation. That's besides that.
Okay.
And so in our stewardship arena, we're talking about, how to help companies do the right thing for the long haul,
Right.
in a very simple way.
Yeah. So, I mean, for example, in one of our portfolio companies, they were struggling a little bit, and we spoke to the CEO, and we are looking at their revenue. They are close to $10 million revenue, right? So, as Alan and I were talking, he said he needs some guidance. Maybe he needs to talk to somebody to kind of tell him that it's okay to cut your cost and you still be fine, right? And so just simple discussions like that, sitting down with the CEOs and kind of navigating through some of the challenges which they are having, advising them on that. And they are doing great right now.
So, so it's hard to put that kind of example, whether it's a value add, whether it's stewardship. So in this case, the CEO was calling us literally every week. Just speaking with us or with me was comforting to him. This is what he said. Just talking to him for a few minutes. Every time he'll say, "Can I talk to you?" And I'll make time to talk to him. That was comfortable. But Rizwan and I, particularly Rizwan, suggested this idea. I said, your problem is not revenue. Your problem is not capital. Your problem is expense. So some founders, they think, so this is more like a general value add stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this value add could become a stewardship conversation.
Right.
So we help him pivot his thinking around how he should manage the company. And after he listened to Rizwan's idea, he has stopped his crisis situation. No, he calls us about good news every week. He said, by the way, we just signed this client. Our EBITDA went up, our revenue went up. Every week he sends us a positive news. So that's
the power of work, the power of being part of your network, the power of being part
or
of
a slightly different point of view, right? I mean, because these guys are very busy, they are under pressure, right? So they are going in some direction. They have something cooked up in their head, which is all valid and good. It's just having communication with them and suggesting to them an alternate way is possible for you, right? So that sometimes helps.
And it's a way of helping without being heavy-handed. So we have an example where a CEO was just feeling burned out and didn't want to run the company, wanted to take a lesser role, or not a lesser role, but not the point person anymore. And so, Al and Rizwan went out and started finding new potential CEO candidates. And even though the board ended up picking a different person than what they had presented, everybody was happy with that. We, started working with the new CEO. And I told that story to a startup this week, and they said, "You're the type of company, you're the type of firm that we want to work with."
Yeah. So I think this is a little bit in the arena that you were talking about.
As far as you can get to that. But what type of LPs fit then for this profile?
LPs.
What type of personalities? What type of engagements do the stewardship fit?
Well, stewardship is, for me at least, and my definition may be not very standard. Stewardship is a softer term, and it requires a engagement from both sides, portfolio company and us, right? To engage effectively. So if one party is not at the right time and place or right mindset, you can't really have those kind of difficult stewardship conversation. But once the timing is right, I think this can be very powerful.
You talk about alignment a lot. What type of misalignment do you avoid then?
Misalignment is around personalities, communications, the things that you cannot control, we cannot control. Although we don't pick companies based on how well they communicate or they don't communicate. And remember, this is like dating and getting married. So when you're dating each other during the deal due diligence, right, everybody behaves quite well.
Right.
Once you invest with them, you get married with them, right? You begin to see more real self, right? So that's the human factor in pretty much every relationship, and venture investment is no exception to that. So we try to avoid people who would be difficult to work with. Just like when we pick partners and staff, we want to make sure they have the right personal, professional DNA to work in a fast-paced and challenging environment.
Okay.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, no, I think Al said it very well. So, I mean, if stewardship in a more broader term means that how we help them at the company level kind of navigate and get partnerships and mergers with other companies and so on, that is coming for us. This is our first fund, right? So now those companies are at that stage where all that, we have been kind of attempting that, but now is the right time going forward where we'll be helping them a lot, navigate through how to do the partnerships, how to do mergers and acquisitions and stuff.
And that takes place on a regular basis with your portfolio companies? Is that that you were talking about? They were calling you weekly. Now this doesn't happen, but does that stewardship has it's embedded in all the processes that you have, or something that it's deliberately done in terms of?
I mean, it's embedded in a sense that when you have decided to invest in a growth stage companies, and which means the fewer companies we are going to be invested in, then it is upon us to make sure majority of them succeed. So stewardship becomes part and parcel of that. It is understood. And remember when we were kind of doing due diligence on these companies, or they were actually contacting us, they were contacting us, especially when the CEOs directly contacted us in those cases. In very first conversation, they liked us because we knew that space, we knew AI, we knew what they were building, and we were open in our communication, and they needed that level of friendship and stewardship. And that's why they basically chose, sometimes actually they chose a larger VC, leaving larger VC and chose us over them, because they believed in what kind of value we can bring to the table and the kind of communication we can have with them.
So Gabriela, this is not a written code where there's no mechanical or technical procedures. It's largely a value-based, approach on our part. It's part of our values, and then we are and values and experience-based. So we are deploying that in every situation where it's needed. Again, as Barry said, we're not forcing on anybody, right? So when the situation arises, we, just like any experience, we go through our experience and our values, saying, oh, if we were in your shoes, what are the things that we will want you to do?
Okay.
And what would be the kind of decision?
Right.
So we may have we might have ideas that are different than yours. So it's basically what they call outsider perspective, but it's deeply based on experience and values.
No, I see it clearly as an unwritten rule.
Yes.
That management consulting, you've heard the unwritten rules of the game thesis or what we're talking about. But this is unwritten, but ingrained in what you do. I've seen you work with us. We collaborate and we partner with you in the marketing and the communication. But I've seen it with you in terms of the way it's not that you're vested, it's that you want, if you succeed, I succeed. And that way,
Exactly.
not only, and that might be cliche, but I seen it at work. And that part of value that you add to either attract new leads or attract investors, that is something that comes high. Soft skills, you might say, you can't quantify their original, whatever it is part of your mojo. It's part of your
It's
ethos.
embedded in our culture.
So this is a high conviction approach. So we invest in select few companies with high conviction. Another way to paraphrase what you just said is we said we are in for the long haul. We work with our portfolio companies through their most difficult periods and their happy period. So we help them go through. I don't know how many times we have stopped CEOs from quitting their own companies, right? And so the point is, we empathize with the difficulty they're going through, and we show them our inner difficulties as well to relate to them. So it's a lot of human factor, but it's deeply, as you said, rooted in our own experiences and our own value systems. When I say value, I'm not talking about social, religious value. We're talking about business and general ethical principle and values that we have, learned over the years.
Yeah, we practically become part of the team, right? So that's what we intend to do, try to do with all our portfolio companies, that we don't consider ourselves separate. We are kind of part of it. If they are successful, we are going to be successful. So that is the driver for us to get engaged with them whenever they need it, and advise them and sympathize with them, empathize with them, right? So that's a part of the culture. That's what Quartus is.
Whenever we get an opportunity to go out there and we find a way to help our companies, we're already looking for that. So if we come across maybe another startup that they could collaborate, we want to put them in touch with that company. Or if they're, they might find another potential customer. Again, we're thinking, oh, you should call one of our portfolio companies. They can do exactly what you're looking to do. So that's happening at all levels, at all times.
Good. Well, I think we've covered the stewardship and how it differentiates Quartus Capital Partners. Appreciate your input, and see you in the next episode.
Gabriela, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.